Hello, everybody. Chuck Cook here, along with my colleagues, Jeff Joseph and Aaron Hall. You may notice that the wonderful Greg Siskin is not on the phone, not on the line with us. Greg is out of town, and I don't think he'll be joining us today. And neither would I want to interrupt him. I'm gonna do the big screen here. Neither would I want to interrupt him on his brief foray out of the office. So it's great to be with everybody. We get a lot of stuff going on. Let me pop into the banners here because I don't want to hear from Lily later that we did not get the banners up. But a couple pieces of new news. First is the H-1B lottery abuse case is literally getting filed tonight. Just takes time. I mean, one thing we don't really talk about is, what are the details of filing? And one of the things to file is you have to go online to the court's website and put in just enormous amounts of data. And the only way to do that is literally by typing it, including plaintiffs' names and addresses. And that takes a while. We have a lot of plaintiffs in the H-1B lottery abuse case. So from all the people that were affected, I think we're going to be sending out a redacted complaint, which means none of the addresses will be on the complaint. We'll probably just take off everybody but the lead plaintiff, who is Liu, L-I-U. So it'll be Liu versus Mayorkas, and that's getting filed tonight. So we're very excited about that. We just couldn't get it filed last week in time. It's a really interesting argument on why we should win on this case. And we do have some press that'll be appearing in the next day or so about this. Because remember that this case is not just about the lottery. Oh, here's Greg. He did join us. Hey, Greg.
I can always stay for a couple of minutes or I'm in trouble with my wife.
That's okay. No worries.
I just wanted to say hello and hear what you had to say.
So we've got that going, but it's really interesting, but it's very complicated. So when you file something that's legally complicated, you have to really bring it down to a basic educational level to get the judge. Not that they're stupid, but they just don't have experience in the area. So we have to bring it down to that level. And I appreciate Aaron's input on that. Actually, it was very helpful as we were finalizing that. So that's the first thing we wanted to talk about. Case filed today. The other case being filed literally right now by Lily is K1 London. So that's being filed right now. We will let everybody know I think it's called Tate versus Blinken. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the case. Or Charlotte. I think it is. Well, man, I may have got the Charlottes mixed up. It was Charlotte Tate. Charlotte, I don't have your last name, but Charlotte is your last name versus Blinken. And Lily will get that done. And we'll get that case information out along with the redacted complaint within the next day or so to everybody that's on there. So those are the two things that are popping right now. There's also another very quick, literally just happening update in EB5 Fong, which is Judge Mehta has been assigned to the case in Washington, D.C. So that case was transferred by the district court judge out in California. I think it's a good assignment to Judge Mehta. Keep in mind, we are literally in the middle of briefing. We have a preliminary injunction pending. The government has a motion to dismiss pending, which we're answering right now. I mean, we're just trying to file it right now. So we are going to hopefully move for a hearing in front of Judge Mehta, at least once we get the response to the motion to dismiss filed and the government responds within a week. We will call Judge Mehta and see if we can't do a status conference with him.
We should talk about the other EB5 decision that came out of the district court this week in lieu. And I'm sure people have heard about that, and we probably want to address how, if at all, that will impact our cases.
Well, one thing we don't have in lieu is we don't have the actual motions, the arguments, or the complaint that we have access to. We have access to the decision. The decision itself is doesn't. I got to tell you, it's just I don't like it. But I don't think it's certainly not binding on us. It's not binding on the judge, on Judge Mehta. He can look at it and go, I don't agree with the reasoning in that case. Now, do district judges defer to each other? I mean, they defer. They say, well, I don't know, that judge did this. I don't know. But they're not bound by it, which is obvious because there's contradicting decisions all over the board on EB5s. So we will, of course, address the Fong decision I mean, that decision in the Liu case, in our Fong reply, in our oral arguments, but it's certainly not binding on the judge. And my guess is, even though not having read the motions or the government's response, ours takes a little bit different tact on the process, because remember, we have a preliminary injunction pending. The government has a motion to dismiss. I think we still have a very strong argument in Fong. Now, of course, the problem with EB5 is the obvious. It ends on Wednesday. So what we'll probably do in that case with the government is move to hold the case in abeyance while, to see if Congress reinstitutes it. So hold it in abeyance for 90 days and then see what happens. We'll have to work with the government on that, but I hopefully they won't oppose that. So that's kind of on Fong. Thank you, Jeff.
I was going to actually, there was some breaking news right before I jumped on that is not about immigration, but it probably affects some of our cases because I don't know if anybody got a headline that Facebook won its big win in front of Judge Boasberg a couple of minutes ago. The company is now valued, I guess, at $1 trillion. Their stock is soaring. But Judge Boasberg, who is the judge in several of our cases, that has been, obviously a huge distraction from our case, our various cases with him. But that was just decided a few minutes ago. So hopefully that means that on some of the other matters we're dealing with Judge Boasberg, he has.
Greg, this was the antitrust case against Facebook. And Boasberg said, "No, you're out of here. Have a nice day. Facebook's just fine," or so to speak, or file your cases again. That's actually a big deal. That was a government suit against Facebook, by the way. Wasn't a private lawsuit.
Right. So that's Kinsley certainly is one of Boasberg's, and we have a couple of others.
We do. We have a couple of cases with Judge Boasberg. So that's a good thing. In fact, you know what? Let's jump to Kinsley right now. Jeff, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Where we are with Kinsley, or Aaron?
Sure, I can talk about Kinsley. So we have a reply that's due. The government has submitted a response to the motion to dismiss, and we have a reply that's due. I believe the reply due date is July 7th.
Correct.
So we are working on that, and that's really kind of the only update I have. Greg is on vacation right now, so if you're not getting responses to your input in the spreadsheets, he will catch up when he gets back from his vacation. But things are moving at a clip, and one of the things we talked about is maybe making a final spreadsheet of the remaining plaintiffs. So hopefully by the next call, we will have firm numbers for you of exactly how many plaintiffs we have remaining in all the cases.
We continue to get people that tell us they've got visas issued, so that's actually a pretty good sign. But thank you, Jeff. And then what happens after the reply brief? And that is kind of goes back. I want to maybe we take a step back from Kinsley for a second. How do cases work? I mean, what is when you sue the government? What is the timeline for a case? Jeff, do you want to take a first crack at that one?
Yeah, I mean, to a great extent, we can control the timeline by what we file, right? So, for example, if we wanted to, if we thought we had enough evidence in a case, we could immediately file the complaint and move for summary judgment in the same motion, right? So, and that would be something where we believe that the evidence that we have without discovery is sufficient for the judge to render a decision in our favor. When you combine a legal claim like that with a mandamus claim, it's harder to do that. It's harder to move for summary judgment right away because you have to show that in all cases, all plaintiffs should be granted mandamus. And you have plaintiffs that are in different situations procedurally, different places in the world with different situations going on in their countries. That is a very difficult claim to make. So what we often do in those cases is wait for the government to submit their motion to dismiss and make our arguments against the motion to dismiss, kind of see where we are after the motion to dismiss legally, where we are with in terms of which plaintiffs have been granted, but also where we are on legal ground. And then we move for summary judgment.
And at that point, we actually get discovery. So, and this has happened in the DV cases. It's happened in several other cases where we get the information from the government about what led to their decision making. Plus, we also get to the facts that they haven't disclosed. So that's the general time. And now, generally speaking, if you file a lawsuit in federal court, just generally, it's going to take 1 to 2 years to get a decision in most federal courts, if not longer. So these are actually on an expedited track anyway. Even if we're not using a preliminary injunction, we have obviously used preliminary injunctions to expedite cases in the past. But the standards on preliminary injunctions are that someone will suffer in such a way that their suffering cannot be fixed. Now, this is true, for example, in the DV lottery cases. Once you lose it, you lose it. So that it is the harm being suffered by the delay is irreparable. That's the word they use. On K1s, it's not necessarily irreparable. So there's a way to fix it. So that's why a preliminary injunction is a little bit harder on some cases than in others. Now, for example, in the Milligan case, where we got a preliminary injunction, or the Tate case, the injunction was limited to ordering the government start issuing the visas. It didn't say which ones, doesn't say when, but you can't use the policy you're using to issue visas. So it was a very limited, narrow preliminary injunction as opposed to an all-encompassing case PI like in a DV lottery case. So that we just wanted to give you that kind of timeline. Now, as far as timeline, so if the government files a motion to dismiss, we then have 14 days, or do we have 21 days to file a response? I think it's 14 days. And the government then has 7 days to file a reply. If we file a preliminary injunction or summary judgment, then the government has 21 days to respond, and we have.
Right, but they get 60 days on the front end to file something after we file the complaint.
Right, the government has 60 days.
And then those timelines that you just mentioned kick in once they file their response.
Right. So these, and sometimes on a case, the government say, hey, can you give us more time? Or can we hold the case in abeyance to see how many more cases we can get done before the judge issues a decision? Because in some cases, the government doesn't want a court decision, but they also don't want, and so they want to try to get done cases, but they don't move as fast as we would like, but they do move. All right. And and we can use the cases that we'll talk about as an example of that right now. I do want to talk about the case that so many of you are pulling your hair out about, and that's the DV 2021 case. I'm going to tell you, and I don't know if my colleagues would agree with me, you're pulling your hair out about nothing. Nothing. The only thing that happened last week is the judge moved our date backwards for a hearing by 6 days. That's it. The other DV cases are not consolidated with our cases. They're not part of our case. We are not splitting time with anybody for oral argument in those cases. The issues that we raise are unique to our plaintiffs, and we will have a full argument on our cases. And keep in mind that we are the only case that is for final hearing. This is our final hearing. So we'll be first because it's our final hearing, and the decision will be binding on all of our clients. We don't have to go back to court later. So again, what we're fighting for our plaintiffs is the interview before September 30th, okay, for our plaintiffs. Now, we're secondarily arguing that if for some reason the Department of State cannot adjudicate all of our plaintiffs by September 30th, that sufficient number of visas be reserved by the judge prior to September 30th to ensure that all our clients get their DV 2021 visas. Or the interviews. I mean, again, some of them might not get the visa because there might be something wrong with their application, and that includes those who are in consulates like Moscow who aren't doing it, or other places that aren't doing visas. Their job is to figure out where you're going or how they're going to get your visa. But our plaintiffs are protected by us. So really, relax. We got this. Aaron, do we have this?
Yeah, and I totally agree with with what you're saying about the hearing date moving. And sometimes you got to take a step back. I know it's hard, and look at it from the perspective of the judge for just a minute. He has been assigned a number of cases that all involve DV 2021. And so for him, it makes sense to hear arguments on different cases on the same day when he's going to be talking about some of the same issues. And so Is it entirely surprising that he wants to do that on one day instead of multiple days over the course of a month? No, and that's fine. And so I'm definitely looking forward to the hearing on 7/19. We thought it was going to be 7/13, but it's going to be 7/19, and we're looking forward to it. The other the government motions is due on July 2nd, so we're working on that, and then it'll all be about the hearing on the 19th.
And something may happen in those cases that helps us, and we might help those cases. I will tell you, I have not read their complaints. I have not read their motions. They're not relevant to our clients. So just relax. It's not a race. All right. It's not, oh my God, we're just going to take all the visas. We're doing everything that's humanly and legally possible to protect all of our DV 2021 clients. And as of this moment, we're not adding any more clients to our case. All right. It's just, we fought for DV 21 since the beginning. We were the first lawyers to file back in November of last year. And actually, Aaron, I can't wait to get to that argument. I said, Judge, we're sitting here because we knew this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's why we filed on DV 2021 in November of last year, because we knew this was going to happen. And by the way, Judge, we'll be back next year on DV 2023, because the same thing is going to happen next year, unless the court fixes it. Actually, I think that helps us a great deal as part of it. So anyway, that's Go. Anybody have anything else on Go? I feel really confident about Go. We're really good. Milligan, Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, Milligan. Let's see. What can I tell you about Milligan? We are in the process right now is the motion to dismiss. We, as I said before, we'll try and get a final count of plaintiffs in the various groups by the next call. I think our plan at this point with Milligan is to probably move for summary judgment in that case. We're pretty confident in the motion to dismiss. And so if we survive the motion to dismiss, our plan is to call the U.S. attorney, get a timeline from him as to when we want to do motions for summary judgment and move Milligan through to final completion.
I think one of the things, Jeff, that I want to ask for once we win the motion to dismiss is all correspondence between the visa office and Manila, Philippines on the processing of K-1s.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
This EB5 case that we're talking about that came out, one of the arguments that they make in that case is that, the judge doesn't have jurisdiction over the mandamus because the pace of how cases are prioritized and given certain priority over others is inherently discretionary on the part of the Department of State. And so they're arguing essentially that, that gives the Department of State the ability to decide when and if they're going to process visas at certain times. Now, I would point out that a lot of the arguments that they make in that case are, look, they also make the same argument we do, that the purpose of Congress was, congressional intent of Congress was family unification. So if we're talking about K-1s, that the Department of State has already said is priority 2, right below age outs and humanitarian cases, it's right up there with immediate relatives. Then comparing that to EB5, which is in the lowest priority rung, is comparing apples and oranges. So factually, the cases are distinguishable, and at least with regard to family cases and K-1s, this case is distinguishable because the Department of State has said multiple times that they should be prioritized. So that's where we are with that argument.
We also have a lot of Milligan folks who are still getting their visas in round 3.
Yes.
Is that right, Greg?
Yes, we are. We're seeing a steady stream. The only group, as you mentioned, are the Manila folks from round 2 are not. We're not seeing the progress, but everybody else seems to be, and every other consulate is moving along.
What I haven't heard yet is that round of London cancellations in July and August, when they have been rescheduled. Although today something really weird happened. One of our 01 clients got scheduled for August, and I thought they were not scheduling you for August. So this made no sense whatsoever. Not that I'm going to call them and say, why did you send it for August? But I think that's something that's, clearly maybe points to them getting stuff back online there. So Milligan folks, I think we're moving forward at a good pace here, and we'll hopefully get those done here sooner rather than later on your visas. Enunciato, Aaron, Nothing.
No updates. We're waiting on a decision from Judge Seaborg. The government filed its motion to dismiss. We opposed, and there has been no decision. However, we've still had people getting some movement on their cases. So I think we've had a couple of visas issued in the last few weeks, and a couple of people set for interviews. And so things are moving for some people, not enough, but we're waiting for Judge Seaborg to let us know his decision.
All right. What's interesting in the Enunciato case is why some people and not others. Part of that is the consulates themselves. And it also, again, reinforced what we talked about. The visa office, who's being sued, they have no control over the consulates. I mean, they can suggest they do things, but clearly, consulates don't have to listen.
The other thing that I wanted to point out from Enunciato that's relevant to some of our other cases is that we've seen movement in Moscow for our Enunciato plaintiffs. In the absence of any emergency or anything like that, the Enunciato plaintiffs, we've had a few get appointments in Moscow, even though they're closed. And so that's something that we can point out in other cases as well.
Which brings up something I want to make sure we mention for Moscow K1s that have relocated to Warsaw. The consulate has asked you to fill out the DS55, remember 85, that's the four-numbered form, sorry about the 55, which basically makes you account for every place you've lived since you were 16, everything you've done since you were 16 years old. It was typically used, only applied to men between the ages of 16 and 55 from Middle Eastern countries. But just FYI, if you talk to your lawyer that's handling the actual K1, you might, if you're going to Warsaw, you might want to have that in hand and ready to submit as part of the application. K1 Cairo, family Cairo. This is the Yaqub case. Right now, we're finalizing the reply, if I'm not mistaken, Jennifer is, to the motion to dismiss in that case. Again, we feel very confident in that case. Somebody asked, well, why did they schedule all the immediate relative cases that we sued on, but not the K1? Well, they can explain that to the federal court judge, since they're supposed to be in the same priority. I don't know why. Maybe they can explain that to the judge. So that's right now ongoing, and hopefully we'll have a decision within a matter of a couple of weeks as reply.
And I anticipate this is another case where we will be moving for summary judgment fairly soon, mostly because all the plaintiffs are fairly similarly situated.
Perfect. All right, next on our agenda is K1 Rio. Again, another one. The government has filed. They have not filed a motion for summary judgment in the Rio case, have they? No. Which is interesting because that wasn't the last one filed. And they have moved for summary judgment in the Manila, the motion to dismiss in the Ramirez case, in the Manila case. So part of that, I think, is the consulate. Because the consulate is doing cases. And I actually have a EB5 in Rio that 2 weeks ago they said, yes, it's an urgent, it's a priority, we'll do it. We're waiting on the physical file. Physical file arrives Friday. They said, yes, we'll get you interviewed shortly. It's like, okay, this expires Wednesday. So it seems like Rio is doing stuff, which is more than can be said about a lot of different consulates, but it doesn't appear to be a pattern. I do want to give a shout out to one of our Milligan plaintiffs who went to London. And hopefully I shared this with you guys. He actually did a picture-based description of what he went through using pictures because you can take pictures in the consulate, but there's a video from the consulate in London about how to do your interview. So he took screenshots explaining, all this empty space. There's literally nobody at the consulate. One little room they jammed 30 people into, facing each other in chairs, while they waited to be interviewed by people out the window without their masks, and then everybody behind the thick wall, all maskless, all of them. So this idea, we're going to probably maybe could turn that into an affidavit about the way they're operating there, because COVID is clearly not a concern. It's an excuse. It's not a concern. So that's our K1 Rio update. K1 Manila, government has just filed motion to dismiss on, was it Saturday? Was it Friday or Saturday? I might have even been Saturday. So that means we'll be responding in a couple of weeks to that. They will reply. We will likely move for summary judgment, although we would really like to get discovery in that. So we may get discovery from the Kinsley case and the Milligan case before we get discovery in the Ramirez case. But don't worry, plaintiffs in the Milligan case that are Filipino, you're ahead of the people in the Ramirez case. Just that, I mean, nobody's going to jump ahead of you in the litigation line. So, anything to add on Manila, Jeff, Aaron, Greg? No. K1 Moscow. The Moscow time clock is, I think they've got another week or so to file an answer to the complaint or motion to dismiss.
It's about 40 days ago, I think.
40 days ago. So Ponomarenko is the name of that case. So we're waiting on them to do that. In the meantime, some of our plaintiffs have moved their case to Warsaw. And not a bad idea to try to get into a different concept. But again, if you're going to Warsaw or probably anywhere else, make sure you fill out the DS 5585. Greg, is that the right form? 5585? I forget the name of that form. DS 5585. Something like that from the Department of State. Greg's got, I don't know. I don't remember. I have a paralegal who does that. K1 London, we already talked about earlier today. Lily is typing away. She's done remarkable work on this case. We're grateful to her for leading out. EB5 Fong, we talked about that too. That's with Judge Mehta. If you didn't hear, Greg, Judge Mehta is assigned to that case.
Chuck, just to back up a second on London, just to let people know, we will, after we file, we will give you guys some, the next thing we'll be getting you communications as far as what you can and can't tell the consulates, and also getting you a redacted version of the complaint. So look for communications with us probably tomorrow, Wednesday, regarding next steps.
All right. I want to just briefly address the Gomez case because people are freaking out that Judge Mehta has not decided the case. So here's my theory. You guys want to hear my theory? Remember, that's a preliminary injunction case, and the judge has already issued the preliminary injunction, and those 9,095 minimum visas are still sitting there. So for him, what he's thinking is they're protected. I've got them protected. They're not in immediate danger of anything. So I will get to that case when I get to that case. That said, again, he at least at some point he wanted argument, right? Which was the same day we're having our argument, which everybody said, Chuck, you're a terrible person for wanting argument until July. Now, would we love a decision from Judge Mehta before July 19th? I think so. That'd be great. Will we get one? Aaron, will we get one before July 19th?
I wouldn't bet on it.
Me neither. Me neither. I think we'll probably get that after the preliminary injunction motion for judgment or with the summary judgment motion with Go. Because remember, it's a motion for summary judgment in Gomez, and they might come out at the same time because they deal with a lot of the same issues, if not all of the same issues that are part of it. So are we taking a pool on when the Gomez case might be decided? I mean, I'm willing to go anything before July 30th. I'm going to go July 30th. I think he will give the government 2 months notice to get this done. So July 30th is me. But again, we also don't know how the government will handle the Gomez people. How will they handle the 9,095? Who do they go to? We also don't know what the judge will do with our request for a class to reissue all the expired DV 2021 visas, 2020 visas who couldn't get in to the United States. So, Greg, we did talk about the USCIS AOS EB delayed litigation. Do you want to mention anything on that briefly?
No, I mean, the case got the minimum number of plaintiffs, so we're proceeding. We're in draft mode right now on that. We want to file something as strong as possible. And it should expect probably. Chuck, did you give a timeline at all as far? No, I mean, I think the aim is probably within 2 weeks.
So somewhere around, certainly before, I mean, the goal is before July 15th. Somebody, we'll get to the question here in a second, but I was looking at the questions, the preliminary questions before we got on, and somebody was saying, well, their lawyer said you can't sue on a mandamus when a case has only been pending for 8 months because, the government takes longer than that normally. And my response is so. Greg, does the government set the standard for what's reasonable on how long it takes to adjudicate a case?
They do not. And we know that what's normal now, for example, for an EAD that's taking 8 months, that's under no circumstances is reasonable and normal. Well, it may be normal as far as what they're doing, but it's certainly not reasonable. And that would be the argument here, particularly given the expiration that happens on September 30th. And we got some data in the last couple of days. It's been on Twitter that they're even behind last year as far as adjudications in the EB2 and EB3 categories. So I think we've got some pretty strong arguments there.
They're actually further behind than we thought they were, aren't they? I mean, that's the thing. They're further behind than we thought they were. And they're easily at risk of not adjudicating 140,000 EB visas, which means they're only probably going to adjudicate around 90 to 100,000. That's the risk that we're looking at. And I had a chance to talk to one of our colleagues today about this case, who's I think ultimately interested in an amicus, in joining an amicus on this issue to try to preserve these visas going forward. So looking forward to this, Greg.
Yeah, one other thing that's a little bit different about this case than about the typical mandamus cases is we've got this congressional intent issue when they set up this whole scheme for numbers rolling over and rolling back and all of that. The goal was to maximize usage in the employment and family-based categories, and that's a little bit different in terms of changing what's reasonable because Congress created a very specific system that has these very tight timelines.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the questions here today. I think we got some great questions. Scroll up to the top here. I guess people can post questions as soon as it's weird because we do a program called StreamYard, and I say we're going to do it, and I get it set up, and apparently it's sitting there on the YouTube channel saying we're going live soon. I didn't know that because I have questions from before we started. Gru Marco, dear lawyers, in a redacted complaint, I put letter C instead of C. My family existing legend. That's not a problem.
Let me take this one.
All right, please.
Not a problem. And also, hello in Serbia. That's where local Denver hero Nikola Jokic is MVP of the NBA. So hello in Serbia.
A big shout out to Serbs. Great to. I went there last 2 Christmases ago, by the way. A short jaunt from Croatia. Any update on Go? We got you done. Britt Simon. I love Britt Simon. Thinks Judge Maida will fail us all.
Britt, I saw a comment below, and he says that doesn't represent his position at all. So
I don't believe that represents Britt's position. I've talked to the man. No way. Corona reasons. This is what's really interesting about Gomez, the history of Gomez and Go, because the 9,000 visas that the judge set aside, Aaron, were really based. Hey, look, the government couldn't do anything. Corona. He didn't really, and neither do we have the evidence at the time that look, this was more policy than it was backlog, and now we know it was policy, and so that's why I still feel very confident about getting more numbers, and I think the judge is, as he reads the stuff and listens to our argument, I think he's going to realize, what I did before was based on, and the government didn't correct him, which I think was bad faith, that this is a policy, not just a proportional response. All right. Alon Johnson. I mean, is that like a Swedish name? Johnson. Yeah. Hi. You said you'll ask the judge for 9:30 to be sure he has at least the judge for. Okay. I don't exactly know what you're talking about. I think what you're referring to is if all of our plaintiffs don't get adjudicated by 9:30, will we have a hearing that day for the judge to reserve visas? And the answer is, we don't know, but more likely the judge will reserve visas for all of our plaintiffs at the time of the summary judgment motion, so that there's enough visas set aside for gold plaintiffs, regardless of how long it takes them to adjudicate it, but insist that the government do everything possible to adjudicate them by 9:30 with likely status reports prior to 9:30. Think that's right, Aaron?
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right. Sandra. Go is the only case summary judgment. Yep. And that, again, is a case strategy. It's a case strategy because we knew that the final judgment would be the most important thing going forward for our clients. Alan asked about consolidation. We already answered that question. These cases have a hearing at the same time. They're not consolidated. And of course, we would fight because we don't want consolidation. Our case is a very different case than one involving 20,000 people or whatever the other case is, which I simply don't know anything about. Let's see. K1 Manila, we don't actually discover what's the motion, what's in the motion to dismiss. All right. So, Aaron, I think I summarized this motion to dismiss earlier today. We are Department of State. We make the rules. We are God. We win. I believe that's the summary of the motion to dismiss. Am I off by that?
It's something like that.
I think it's something like that. No, really, we will get this out to the Manila plaintiffs, and it is there's no confidential information other than the name at the top of the case, which everybody already knows. So it is typically it's the same government motion to dismiss that we've seen every single time, which is the court doesn't have authority to tell us when or how or if we process cases. You know, it's consular non-reviewability wrapped in a different package, but it still smells like a pile of poop. So that's what it says. But Patrick, we'll get that out to you, and hopefully you'll appreciate it. Charlotte Louisa is right here. Charlotte, I believe, is our K1 London plaintiff in name. Catherine. Every Monday is different. Heart attack caused by anxiety. Any news on pending? When are you setting the defense? We're scared to be left with that. Look, the last minute is not July 6th. It's due July 6th. All right. If you're worried that we're going to miss a deadline, take a Valium. It's going to be okay. We're not going to miss a deadline. Aaron, do you want to address that a little bit?
No, I mean, the response to the motion to dismiss is going to be similar in a lot of these cases. And so the work that we're doing, for example, right now in Yakub, some of it's going to transfer over to Penn. And don't worry, we've got the deadlines calendared. They'll be filed. And
we're working on them now. We're not just like, oh, it's July. It's July, we haven't done the case. Mm-hmm. No, we got this. We're really good at this. Between us, we've been practicing like 1,000 years. Most of those with Jeff. All right, Team Manila. Hi, Mike. Hope you're doing well. Christopher, Penn looking to see if there's any more for Penn versus Milligan in response to the most recent motion by the government. I feel confident again in our beating this back. I really do. Go Saint. We've already addressed that. I haven't seen my fiancé since January 2020. I'm scared to death. The lawsuit didn't happen. Catherine, we have your back here. We're going to fight to the death to get you that visa and get you over here. All right, that's what we're going to do. Sandra, someone who paid nothing to get scheduled before a Go plaintiff who paid $2,000.
I want to talk about this one because I got some emails saying the same thing, and I think what people are referring to with these emails and these comments are about somebody who might be a participant in another lawsuit, potentially getting interviewed before somebody who's a Go plaintiff. Listen, every person who's a selectee in DV 2021 has some kind of claim. Now, some of them are in lawsuits and some are not. Judge Mehta does not care who paid what for their lawyers to present their claim. And so is it possible somebody from another lawsuit could get an interview before a Go plaintiff? Sure. And Go plaintiffs are already getting interviews now, some of them. And I assume other people who are not Go plaintiffs are getting some interviews now. Not enough. What I want to say is Judge Mehta does not care who's paid what to their lawyers or who hasn't paid what, and how that affects people personally. What he cares about are the legal claims presented. We feel strongly about the way that we presented the claims in Go, and that we are going to continue to push for our Go plaintiffs to get interviews as soon as possible. Can we promise that not one other plaintiff from another suit or another person who's not a plaintiff in a suit won't get an interview before somebody who's a Go plaintiff? No, absolutely we can't. But we're pushing to preserve all the rights for our Go plaintiffs.
Thank you, Aaron. Well done. Is it legally possible for different filing strategies to be consolidated?
Sure. You can file a motion for summary judgment or a motion for preliminary injunction with a motion for summary judgment in the alternative. Yeah. And we've done that.
All right. So, Catherine, do you think it would take long for the judge to reply? Okay, this is the most impossible thing in the world is to predict when a judge is going to make a decision. Literally, we don't know. We have had a couple cases where the judge, like, bam. We have other cases, and a great example is Enunciato, where motions to dismiss have been finalized for 4 months, and we have nothing. Now, is it likely to happen that it takes a long time? No, I think it'll be relatively quick. But keep in mind, these judges don't have one case. And a great example earlier is what Greg talked about with one of our judges, Boasberg, was handling a massive case among probably several hundred cases that he has on his docket brought by the FEC against Facebook. And I'm going to guarantee that there was probably 50,000 pages of materials that were filed in that case that he had to read and then make a decision. And I don't know how long that decision is, but I'm guessing it's probably 100 pages. And these judges, they got one clerk working for them, maybe two. No, justice, what is that old saying? The justice grinds slowly, the grinds ever so fine, or something like that. So, nothing's immediate in the United States as far as justice is concerned. Anything about IR1 and CR1 interviews in London? Well, we know this. They're supposed to be doing them because it's the top priority after age outs. And there can't be that many age outs. I mean, really keeping them that busy. And after seeing our Milligan plaintiffs' video summary of what's happening there, would be really strange if they're not getting them done. I heard a rumor. Oh, this is my favorite. Rumors. I love rumors. Aaron, I heard a rumor that Manila is doing an expert interview for someone that was sent from Hong Kong. Is that true? I have no freaking idea.
I don't know, Mike. I'm sorry.
Is it now? If you're asking, is it possible? It could be, but I don't know why they'd go to Hong Kong and not Indonesia or Taiwan or someplace like that, and why they'd go to Manila. Because remember, if you remember, what Manila has been doing is age outs. Manila's been doing age outs, so maybe it's an age out, but. Honestly, Mike, I have no idea. We don't follow the rumor mill on every consulate, nor in most. Oh, there it is. King versus Blinken. King versus Blinken. Very good, Charlotte. That's awesome. The difference between summary judgment and a preliminary injunction. This is kind of fun. So a preliminary injunction is filed typically at the beginning of a case where there is something that demands justice immediately, demands a stop to doing something or a start to doing something, because somebody's going to be harmed in such a way by a delay that it would be unconscionable to make them wait. This was true in Kinsley, when we file a preliminary injunction and the government we'll just let everybody get visas. Same with in Gomez. No, we'll get those visas done right away. So a preliminary injunction is a preliminary stop or start to doing something the plaintiff's demanding, but it's not the final decision. A motion for summary judgment is a request for a final decision in the case, and usually occurs after a motion to dismiss or even after a preliminary injunction and after what's called discovery, where the government has to produce, in these cases, their administrative record, what they did internally that affected the process we care about, that we're litigating about. So that's the difference. One is an upfront, and you can't always file it. It's actually relatively infrequent in most cases. And then the summary judgment is the final case in a case. Now, the alternative to the summary judgment is actually a trial. You actually go to trial with a jury or with the judge on a case. That's never going to happen in one of these cases. But that's the difference. I hope that, Yana, that explains it to you. How long did it take for the judge to give the final response in the K1? How long will it take? We already talked about that, Catherine. We don't really know. Hopefully it'll be quick. Again, it won't be a final judgment. It's just on the motion to dismiss. I don't know. Thank you, guys. Oh, thank you, Catherine. You're very sweet. What kind of action after July 19th? Of course, the judge, I think, will set status conferences, or at least a status report from the government on processing. But I don't think, and there may be a final hearing, the end of September, but we should have his written decision on the case, I think, by the end of July. I think he gets it. I think it was obvious in our status conference with him that he gets the urgency of these cases. So thank you, Britt Simon, the man on DVs. If you have any question about DVs, that's the guy right there to go to. Greg is on vacation. Greg was on vacation with us earlier this weekend, but he's certainly enjoying his time. Russian DV 2020. Will he have time for interviews when we're still there? Now, are you referring to Gomez 2020? Now, if you are referring to the Gomez 9000, keep in mind there's no time deadline on that, at least as of now. Now, when the judge issues a final decision in Gomez, he may say, I want all of these visas adjudicated. Actually, I want all 9,000 issued because he's reserving 9,000 to be issued. I want this done in 6 months. So he will probably put a timeline on it. And hopefully, and I haven't seen this, hopefully the Department of State's hiring, I would hope, or bringing back their retired people. We've talked about that in other videos. We mentioned to the KCC that we are a Go plaintiff. They didn't reply. They're not replying to anybody, but you can go ahead and say you're a Go plaintiff. That's fine to do that. They all know what this case is about at this point. Be cool to have an indication how many of those who tune in are Go plaintiffs. That's probably a goodly number of folks here. We're at Milligan round 2, possibility timeline. We already talked about that earlier. So we go back to the Milligan heading. We talked about the status. Email, yes, we will send out to all the Ramirez. Look at that picture he has. What is that, guys? That's the drill sergeant guy from the movies. I hope it's not the CB man. Otherwise, he's really old. But we will email out to Ramirez plaintiffs the Ramirez motion to dismiss. So you have a copy of that. Let's see. Nina, I hope you're doing well. You should have your UK case is getting filed right now by Lily. Why haven't we moved for summary judgment in Milligan round 2? Jeff addressed that issue earlier under Milligan. Please refer to that time. Kinsley, we are at the embassy in Guangzhou. Once there, what can we do to push interview? Well, first of all, you can email the consulate and say, hey, we're a Milligan plaintiff, wondering when we're going to be interviewed. Certainly you can do that. But again, until there's a final order, nothing other than what I said from the very beginning in a lot of these cases. Generally speaking, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Okay, I don't see that I've never seen it harm anybody. Hey, you complained or you filed a lawsuit. No. They want to get rid of you. They don't want your emails. I mean, they just want to be gone. So not you don't want to be kind of a jerk, and you don't want to be mean, but you can be politely insistent that look, we've been waiting since X date. We're part of this lawsuit. We'd love to be interviewed as quickly as possible. Maybe give a reason why. I did have a client expedited recently because of a pending death in a family. that they helped them get a visa. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt if you've got something like that.
And remember that the loudest squeaky wheel is an individual mandamus case. You can
That's
always file an individual mandamus case depending on the delay in your own individual situation.
And I said that, and Jason pops up, who's having aneurysm surgery, and they are not adjudicating the case. That's Manila, by the way. In Manila, I mean, I don't know if Dante has got a special inner circle of hell reserved, but I think he might be close. Oh, good. We have a crazy guy. We will block that person. Let's see. Go play. We're gonna go get a copy of your. Yes, Wes, we'll be sending that out. Yes, we got a Brit. I wrote to more than 12. This is one of our Russian folks, I think. I replied. So actually, Sophia, if you would take all those rejections and put them in one PDF file and email it to Aaron and I, we would be very appreciative. If you would do that, we'd be very appreciative.
And that would be valuable too in the Moscow litigation.
Yes.
Marenko.
That's why I want that. If you would do that, it'd be very helpful. Let's see. Round 2 plaintiffs at the NVC. Yes, we know there's still plaintiffs at the NVC. And again, that's why we'll ultimately get the final judgment in this case. Can Judge Mehta give 0 visas to all lawsuits? Absolutely, he can do that. But that's not the question, and that's not going to happen. Let's see. Rio round 3. We have had Rio round 3. I wish Greg was here because he's more up to date than I am, that have been adjudicated in Rio. Why do you suffer? That's why we want discovery on Manila. We want to know what's going on. All right. Regarding the H-1B lottery abuse, city court website posting our case after it's filed. We will post it on a. I'll put it on the Twitter machine, and I will put it in a Dropbox so that you have access to it, plaintiffs. All right.
Stay tuned, everyone. In the next few weeks, we will have a website where all of this stuff will be posted, and you will not need to wait on us to redact it and send it to you.
So we'll get that to you. All right. Do we plan on helping Go plaintiffs from Russia transfer against other countries? We are asking in our complaint and a remedy that the judge ordered the Department of State to accommodate people from consulates who are either closed or unable to process the cases. Are we individually helping each plaintiff? No, we can't do that. It's not what we were hired to do. But as part of the order, the Department of State should be doing that. And of course, getting your visa reserved if it has to wait a few more months to get it done. All right. Let's see. Ahmed keeps asking the same question. We're going to skip that question for the 40th time. I don't know where sushi is, nor do I know what we're talking about, but I did want to put that up. I'm sorry, Lucy. I don't know what that means.
I'm at home today, so it's my fish. My fish is.
Oh, your fish!
He didn't die. Don't worry. Or she. I don't know.
And yes, that is Yoda. That's Professor Yoda behind me. Thank you. A gift from my daughter. She knows I'm a big fan of the Prophet Yoda. Let's see here. Catherine, I know we've had visas issued from K1s out of Rio. I know we have. But we'll address that next week when Greg's back in the office. Let's see. I don't want to jump ahead. Did you see anything you want to ask about, Aaron?
A couple of the same question. One from Andre Stibiliski. He's a Go plaintiff, and he says, is there any advantage of the summary judgment instead of a preliminary injunction? You already addressed it. Summary judgment is asking for a final decision. Preliminary injunction is just preserving the status quo. So we are glad that we're in the position of having summary judgment be at issue at the hearing coming up on the 19th.
Parth, again, we'll get the H-1B abuse complaint up so that you know the first 47 pages of the complaint are the plaintiffs. There are approximately 500 plaintiffs in that case, more or less. Let's see.
503. I just read it.
503. Awesome. Did you just finish reading that? It's It's kind of a crazy.
It's good. I like it.
Let's see. Asan, if you go to either Jeff's or Greg's litigation page, you can still sign up for the EB AOS delay case.
Yeah, I don't know did Greg mention when the filing
by July 15th, if not a little bit earlier.
Okay, good.
Okay. Let's see. Paris, my fiance arrived. We got married. Yay, Michelle!
Michelle.
Congratulations. Send a picture. Tweet it out. We love to see it.
Bon chance.
Let's see. Gunnery Sergeant Hartman from the movie Full Metal Jacket. And he's also the guy that was on the Progressive commercials before he died. So thank you, Christopher. Hoorah. Oh, wait a second. We have hoorah and hoorah. We got Marines. We got Army guys. They're fighting each other. Dogs and cats falling from the sky. It's a paraphrase from Ghostbusters, if you guys don't know that. Let's see what else we got here. Why didn't the judge consolidate go? Because they're very different cases with very different counsel and very different results that we're seeking. That's why.
And depending on how the oral argument goes,
yeah,
they still may consolidate. I anticipate that if the judge wants to consolidate, he'll give us an opportunity to object or not object, depending on how oral argument goes. Because remember what Chuck said earlier, we're not so sure that it's a good idea or a bad idea, really, to join with them. We haven't read their complaints. We don't know what they're going to argue. We won't until we get to the hearing.
Right. By the way, apparently Charlie Oppenheim on Chat with Charlie talked about Manila today. So Aaron, we got to, Jeff, we got to go listen to Chat with Charlie. And they probably don't have nice subtitles at the bottom. So I have to listen to the whole freaking thing.
I was on a panel with Charlie last year, and I have his email.
Email him.
I wonder if I should just email.
Just email him. Everybody emails Charlie. Just email Charlie. Charlie, what did you say about Manila? I'd love to know. K1. For the guys who don't know who Charlie Oppenheim is, he is the only man in America or woman who understands how the visa bulletin works.
And he actually is the wizard behind the odds. He actually is the one that counts the numbers and decides the numbers. I mean, yeah. He's that guy.
He's that guy. I mean, there's a very complicated math, literally, that goes into the visa bulletin every month. And Charlie has actually been very pro-immigrant over the years with the visa bulletin, including 2007 when he made everybody in the world current because immigration wouldn't give him data. Or even the rapid progression in October of EB2s and EB3s for India. So
he knows how it works.
He knows how it works. Joe, thank you very much. Yes, people attacked me and now they don't have a final decision. Yeah, there you go. Don't attack next time. Be kind. We reached out to KCC in Tokyo. Embassy serves they understand our case from KCC. Again, this is so when you write back to the embassy, say, thank you, Mr. Embassy Man, for responding to my email. I am copying the KCC on this email so they can forward you the case so you can send me for an interview. Remember, you always do both. NBC and consulate, KCC and consulate. You always have them both on the same email. Yes, Francine, we will get that out to the plaintiffs. Let's see. Is KCC now outsourced to contractors? Actually, I think it's been outsourced to contractors for quite some time. They're not Department of State employees. And at least in one of the cases, they averred that, hey, these guys just collect documents. They don't really do anything. Well, they don't really do anything. What are they doing? Why are they even there? Any update from Montreal? Greg, Jeff, you had reached out to Joe today about Paris, I saw, on the one case. If you haven't heard back from Joe yet on Montreal.
I never really hear back from Joe. I mean, I just email him the problem cases, and then some of them move. Yeah. And we don't really know if they're moving or not unless you put something in the status update. So I'm assuming things are moving unless you tell me otherwise.
This is a great final question. When will the Director of Consular Affairs, this is actually the Assistant Secretary for Consular Affairs, when will they confirmed and then sworn in? Well, I don't know when they will, but I asked this exact same question about Urchadu, the USCIS director. She passed out of committee a month ago, 12-11, and only because Tom Tillis didn't vote. But I was told that the last two USCIS directors, they weren't confirmed until July and August. So it's not. So I'm going to guess probably July or August. Is that it? All right.
Huck, I just put in the chat box, in the private chat box, the link to the YouTube Chat with Charlie from today. So if anyone wants to watch it.
So you can do that. I actually just posted it in the comment section. There it is in the comment section. So you guys can go to that comment section, and that's the Chat with Charlie today. This has been the chat with Jeff, Aaron, and Chuck about IMMPact Litigation. We will get copies of the newly filed cases, K1 London and EB H1B lottery abuse, out to people tomorrow by email to those plaintiffs. And look forward to seeing you guys next week, as well as our individual Facebook Lives this week. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.